Coach Ted Faulkner here, bringing you the 1977 Tecmo Legacy League Super Bowl between the Denver Broncos and the Dallas Cowboys. It's a TLL first, as we feature the same matchup that the fake NFL had back in 1977. And it's what we all came to see, the two best teams in the league scratching and clawing their way for the season's biggest prize. So let's get you out to the action in the first quarter and see who got scratched up in Super Bowl XII. Coach RisOn won the toss and elected to kick, so Coach CheapCatch needed to get the Denver offense out to a hot start. But instead, he took a sack on the game's first play. A closer look shows that Cheap did have his primary target available on the play, wide receiver Rick Upchurch, being deployed in this game at tight ends. But after the game, Cheap said it was a controller problem that had caused the sack. He pressed the B button to throw to Upchurch, but nothing happened, an event that has come to be known as the B button glitch. It makes you wonder, with this being such a frequently voiced concern around the league, what's going on with these controllers? I mean, have they gotten together in a huge gambling ring and they're trying to make money off of our failed passing attempts? Anyway, it's got a lot of coaches around the league fuming, just like this first down sack does Coach Cheap and the Broncos. This completion from Morton to Jack Dolbin makes third down manageable. But another sack, this time on a picked play, ends Denver's first drive after just 3 plays. Preston Pearson may not be a star, but he's a valuable multi-purpose weapon in a diverse Dallas offense, and he gives the team good field position at their own 43 to start their first drive. Coach Chaos uses Staubach's legs to draw safety Bill Thompson left, and then swings it to the other side to Tony Dorsett for a good gain on first down. This route on the play pass was not designed to be cut short, but a little luck when you're trying for a championship never hurts. After the game, Coach RisOn told me that he'd learned this season that you can't just sit back and wait for your superstars to make plays. You have to make the pieces of the puzzle fit together yourself. In that spirit, there are big plays and there are important plays. This swing pass to Robert Newhouse might not have been a big play, but it certainly was important for its careful execution. Let's take a look at why. Coach Rison rolls Roger Staubach left against the grain of the play, which sends 3 wide receivers deep right. They're all covered. However, Preston Pearson, a running back being split out at wide receiver, is running deep down the left sideline. And Coach Cheap, using linebacker Randy Gradishar, is forced to cover deep. Many TLL coaches, including myself, would see this as a mismatch and immediately unload it to Pearson in the end zone. But Coach Rison thinks he has better. He's got one of the fastest quarterbacks in the league in Roger Staubach, and it appears he has a running lane in front of him. But his best chance to run may be to draw the nearby defender up towards the line of scrimmage, and then try to make a move around it. But surprisingly, the defender stays home, so Coach Chaos has no choice but to check down to his third option, big fullback Robert Newhouse. The nearby defender, like most linebackers, isn't very good in pass coverage, and Roger Staubach has one of the best arms in the league, so he can sneak it in before the drone has a chance to get over. From there, Newhouse has a chance to use his power in the open field. Again, it's not a big play, but it's 7 yards instead of none, it's a first down instead of a third down, and it's one more tool in the Dallas Cowboys toolbox that Coach Rison has learned to use like a master craftsman. But don't call Tony Dorsett a tool. Dallas can kill you with blunt force trauma like we saw in the last play, or they can do it with surgical precision. Here, Tony Dorsett slices up the Denver defense. The one back off center is a bread and butter play in most Tecmo offenses, and it's designed to go up the middle, but in this case, Bill Thompson is in a position to make the play already. So Coach Chaos busts it outside into the open field. And now that Dorsett is isolated with the safety, he can use his speed to make the defense look silly. Not too many safeties are going to catch up to that. Here, Coach Cheap is obviously worried about Dorsett's speed and takes the wrong line to the inside with Bill Thompson, allowing Newhouse to walk into the end zone untouched. After watching a drive like that, it's easy to forget that the Denver Orange Crush is arguably the best defense in the league. Thompson, Gradishar, Tom Jackson, Lyle Alzado, Lewis Wright, the list of all pros goes on and on. You could run out of breath. But Coach Rison made it look like he was playing a preseason game against the CPU. But Dallas has been near perfect lately, and this drive was as close to a perfect one as you're ever going to see. 6 plays, 3 runs, 3 passes, 3 different running backs making plays on the drive. Perfect. Denver's offense is hampered by the loss of Otis Armstrong to injury for almost the entire season, but wide receiver Haven Moses gained nearly 1,600 yards of total offense. But here he goes nowhere. And another called play doesn't help. In the AFC Divisional Playoffs against my Steelers, the combination of Morton to Dolbin was a deadly jumping jackass combination, but here there's no such luck. The scoreboard through one quarter may say 7-0, but Dallas is putting a good old-fashioned country whooping on the Denver Broncos. The quarter opened with a Denver punt after the team's second straight 3-and-out drive. And Dallas would begin in a nearly identical field position to where they had on their first touchdown march. This long pass play to Drew Pearson clearly caught Coach Cheap in a run defense. You can tell because the drone defensive backs all either cover short routes to the backs or come forward to cover spaces close to the line. This leaves just one Bill Thompson to cover 2 Pearsons. This may seem like the kind of random play-calling combination that happens in Tecmo all the time, but there's a significant element of strategy involved here. Staubach and Pearson both entered the quarter in bad physical condition, while Tony Dorsett, already Dallas's biggest weapon, went into excellent. This gives Dorsett ludicrous speed and leaves Cheap with no choice but to key in on him. And after establishing the Cowboys' ability to control the ball in the first quarter, here Coach Rison reminds Denver that this is a big play offense that can strike from anywhere, anytime. Denver's able to keep Dorsett out of the end zone on 1st and goal. But on the next play, Dorsett extends the Cowboys' lead to 13. Trailing by 2 touchdowns and not having shown any sign of being able to stop the Dallas offense, the Broncos needed an immediate response to rescue their chances in Super Bowl XII. When Jack Dolbin returned the ensuing kickoff, they got it. Dolbin's twisting return set the Broncos up with the best field position they'd had on the day, and having faced constant pressure from the Dallas defensive line on earlier drives, they went to the ground. That's fullback John Keyworth for 5. Denver's first down of the game comes halfway through the second quarter, but it's as important as it is timely. Haven Moses is a wide receiver thrust into the running back position out of necessity, and this rare display of power fights him close to the first down. Cheap didn't check Moses between quarters, so I don't know his physical condition, but his base hitting power is 25. The Cowboys are without All-Pro safety Cliff Harris for the game. He's being replaced by cornerback Mark Washington, and he's the first victim of Moses' rampage. The second is linebacker Hollywood Henderson, who, with 44 hitting power, was clearly nerfed by whoever made the game. Finally, defensive tackle Jethro Pugh, who sacked Morton earlier in the game, couldn't bring down Moses here. Even when Coach Rison audibled into the goal line, the Broncos stayed with Moses on their methodical push toward the end zone. On Denver's first passing play of the drive, Morton can't find an open receiver and takes a short sack. Whenever Chaos audibles to the dime, it means he thinks he's picked your play, and he did here. But Moses picks up a good gain of 7 yards anyway. On this critical third down play, Coach Cheap called T-sweep, which calls for the running back to bounce outside and down the bottom sideline. But that's also where the entire Dallas defense is headed. But Moses has great speed, 2 lead blockers, and a lot of open space going the other way if he cuts the run to the top side of the field. He may not even be touched before he reaches the first down marker. But instead, the play, the drive, and perhaps Denver's chances of winning the Super Bowl ended in a swarm of Dallas Cowboys. This field goal by kicker Jim Turner put Denver on the board, but it was an inauspicious end to a drive in which the Broncos needed to assert themselves in the game. A nice return by Preston Pearson puts Dallas in position to try for another score with time running out in the first half. But with a defense this disruptive, running the ball isn't going to get the job done with so little time left. Some coaches like to use a linebacker or a lineman to rush in a situation like this to prevent the quarterback from being able to throw to the end zone, but it's risky. Golden Richard's diving catch puts the Cowboys in field goal range with just 4 seconds left. But Efrain Herrera's effort sails wide and keeps the Dallas lead at 11. Another pick play by Coach Rison leads to a Harvey Martin sack and ends the half. The first 10 minutes were all Dallas, but Cheap's found himself here before. In last year's Super Bowl, the TLL's first, Cheap's Washington ethnic insensitivities were in exactly the same hole against my Colts. It even included kicking off to start the second half as he would be here. But through tough defense and this late John Riggins run, Cheap was able to pull out the game and become the TLL's first Super Bowl champion. But if a comeback is going to happen in this game, the Broncos are going to need to see big improvements on both sides of the ball. Tony Dorsett spent the third quarter in bad physical condition. But apparently nobody told the Denver Broncos defense that. You might use any number of snack metaphors to describe Tony Dorsett's running style. A donut because he'll run circles around you. A nice chocolate souffle because he's so sweet and smooth. But in bad, with his hitting power reduced to just 19, would anyone have thought of this? But Tecmo is just full of surprises, and it's safe to say that Coach Cheap was, surprised when a diminished Dorsett started dotting the field with Denver defenders, starting with backup cornerback Randy Poodle being used in the third quarter at safety. This carcass belongs to Steve Foley, a cornerback in bad. TD's last two tasty treats on the play are Foley again, and safety Bernard Jackson playing the third quarter in excellent. Dorsett's jiffy-popping run might be a fluke, but one thing seems sure. This time Cheap is forced to cover Drew Pearson deep, so Chaos goes underneath to Dorsett, who breaks the tackle and leaps his way to another first down. And finally, the fake to Dorsett leads to a Golden Richards touchdown. Cheap later said he felt it just wasn't his day when he got beat by Golden Richards for a CheapCatch touchdown. But a closer look will show that it wasn't a CheapCatch. Watch as I run it back, and then forward again. When the ball arrives, Richards clearly has a step, making for a clean, albeit frustrating, touchdown. For the second time in this game, Dallas scored a touchdown in just 3 plays, this time going nearly 80 yards. Dorsett is closing in on 100 yards on the game as Denver's Super Bowl dreams are quickly turning into a nightmare. After Morton overthrew John Keyworth on first down, he went 3 straight plays to the one man who might be able to lift the Broncos' offense out of its slumber. But this pass to Haven Moses was underthrown. And the next, a deep pass which had been so effective for Denver all season, fell harmlessly into a crowd. With still more than 6 minutes to play, the Broncos probably didn't need to go for it on 4th down, but since they hadn't stopped the Dallas offense yet anyway, there's no reason not to. For my part, I had picked Denver to win Super Bowl XII, probably partly because they knocked my best team, the Steelers, out of the playoffs. So when I saw this pass arc promisingly toward one of the most dangerous players in the league, I thought my prediction could still be vindicated. And when I saw the separation created between Haven Moses and Mark Washington, as well as the ball drifting neatly towards the receiver, I thought Denver had finally hit pay dirt. Potential score, like just about everything in Super Bowl XII, was just beyond the Broncos' reach. The third quarter ended the way it had begun, with Dallas escaping everything Denver tried to do on defense. In just 2 plays, they found themselves again in striking distance of the Denver end zone. And in 3 plays, they were in it. Coach Rison has been called by many the best passer in the league. Give him the best quarterback on top of it, and he'll make your day very long. Roger Staubach is perfect on the day through 3 quarters. Cheap is right. It's a lot of. For Dallas, it's a lot of passing, a lot of rushing, and a lot of points. For Denver, it's a lot of nothing. Denver began the 4th quarter clinging to its last breath of playoff life, desperate for any plays it could get. This completion to Keyworth was just Morton's 2nd of the game. He quickly followed it with his 3rd. Riley Odom's catch in traffic was Denver's longest play of the game to this point. But its record didn't stand long. It's just a CheapCatch, but with so little time remaining, the coach of the same name is exploiting the little bit of strategy that's left available to him. Haven Moses seems to be isolated on the worst player on the field, Benny Barnes, a cornerback in bad. But Barnes is actually covering in the seam. That leaves only Charlie Waters to cover deep. Waters is clearly in position to make the play, and what's more, the ball actually seems to travel past the receiver. To add insult to injury, Waters isn't excellent, while Moses isn't. It's just a cheap catch to be sure, but the moral of the story is, throw downfield to your good players and good things will often happen. It's a message that Coach Cheap took to heart early in the 4th quarter. And 2 plays later, it paid off. The Morton to Moses touchdown punctuates a quick drive that was exactly what Denver needed if they're to still have any hope in this game. Unfortunately, due to a technical problem, as you can see, the quality of the replay is very poor, so I've had to do my best to recreate it. First, Morton's pass. And then the catch by Moses. Dallas may have totally dominated this game, but in Tecmo 3, no lead is safe, and you know what's coming next. How your kickoff team lines up depends on whether your defense is in a 3-4 or a 4-3 scheme. And here in the TLL, thanks to Coach Slim Stud's brilliant ROM hacking abilities, coaches can set their teams to their preferred scheme. So, even though the late 70s Broncos of the fake NFL were known as one of the first great 3-4 defenses, Cheap has them in the 4-3 because he likes it better. Here's how 4-3 teams line up on kickoffs. The two most important guys on this play are linebacker 2 Bob Swenson and linebacker 3 Tom Jackson. Swenson bursts into the middle to take out opponents, while Jackson uses his speed to fly in and recover the ball. After getting through the line unblocked, Swenson takes on the middleman on the return team, who's always the quarterback. The ensuing grapple impedes the two players behind him, wide receiver 1 Golden Richards and wide receiver 2 Drew Pearson. And that allows Jackson to sneak in and scoop up the ball. Craig Morton wastes no time going back to his favorite target. Chaos does a good job of getting over quickly to cover John Keyworth. Another rainbow into the corner on this pick play isn't quite so lucky this time. Chaos has spent much of the fourth quarter using cornerbacks Mark Washington and Aaron Kyle, but on third down he uses safety Charlie Waters. His added hitting power helps him bring down John Keyworth and bring up fourth down. But a misstep by Waters leaves Moses wide open in the back of the end zone, and the comeback continues. The once lifeless Broncos are now kicking at the door of the lead, but with just a minute and 50 seconds left, would there be enough time to complete this most improbable of comebacks? Only another onside kick would do the job. But Denver's hopes and the competitive portion of Super Bowl XII disappeared into the arms of lineman John Fitzgerald. All that's left are congratulations to a great coach and a great team who played a great game. This has been Coach Ted Faulkner for the Tecmo Legacy League. Take it away, Charlie Pride.
Dallas Cowboys. We are the Cowboys. Super coach, super team. League hard, hungry, ugly, and mean. So get down, get down, get down, y'all. Dallas Cowboys. Football. We organize like we go into war. Big mean team from the big long star. Hiding in the first for a pot of gold. See you on Sunday at the Super Bowl. We are the Cowboys. Super coach, super team. Lean hard, hungry, ugly, and mean. So get down, get down, get down, y'all. Dallas Cowboys. Cowboy football. We got the staff and the Superman. Our scouting talent in all of the land. Super fan, super play. Best looking cheerleaders in the whole USA. We are the Cowboys. super coach, super team. Clean, hard, hungry, ugly, and mean. So get down, get down, get down, y'all. Dallas Cowboys, Cowboy football. Dallas, Dallas Cowboys. We are the Cowboys. Super coach, super team. Clean, hard, hungry, ugly, and mean. So get down, get down, get down, y'all. Dallas Cowboys, Cowboy football.